Are you losing too many hands battles? What if I told you that you could turn your strengths into weaknesses with counters? Today, I'm going to show you the different types of counters, how to use them, and when to use them. Welcome to the Counter Masterclass. So now let's talk about the different types of counters. There are three main counters, the first one being the one-handed counter. Now this is the most common used in amateur level, and what this does is it allows you, when the ball is in front of your body, to be at its strongest point when you're making contact with the ball. Notice you're also taking it earlier and more out in front, and when you're hitting this one-handed backhand counter, you're going to be in the strongest when it's in front of your body, in between these 4 points. Your two hips, your right hip, your left hip, and then your right shoulder and left shoulder. This box right here is where you want to shift your body in order to get that counter in that area. So your goal when hitting a one-handed counter is to slide in order to find that counter in this zone, so then you're at the strongest point. So with one-handed backhand counters, you are going to funnel the ball in front of you because you're breaking your wrist and pushing through. Most of your counters are going to be ending up in front of you rather than cross court. Now, because you're taking this ball earlier and more in front of you, this is one of the pros, is your opponents have less time to react to this counter. Now, one of the weak points is that you're weaker the further you are away from your body. So when you can't get that ball into this strike zone right here, then when it's further away, it's really tough to have enough leverage and power and placement to hit back a good counter the further it is away from your body. So let's talk about the mechanics. Ideally, I want a pushing outward motion and a high to low motion, because one of the most important points of a counter is to get it to my opponent's feet. If I'm trying to hit a counter to Ethan right here, if I hit a counter that's too high, his paddle's gonna be closer to it compared to if I hit a ball down to his knees or to his feet, it's gonna be much more difficult even if it comes off a little bit slower. So with our one-handed counters, we wanna focus on getting on top of the ball to then make the ball go downwards rather than just pushing through it. Now, a common mistake I see on the amateur side is they tend to keep their paddle face open and they still snap through it, but because their paddle face is open, they slice the ball and typically it ends up going shoulder high rather than towards their knee. And to be honest, a good counter is just a ball that's low. If I hit it low with a little bit of pace, not even a lot, then the next ball is going to come up high and then I can put that next ball away. So if your contact point of the counter is above net level, which most of these, since the person speeding up the ball is typically going to be speeding up below the level of the net, so the ball is coming upwards, and so that means my contact point is typically going to be above the level of the net. I want to be getting on top of it and hitting it back downwards. So just to show you guys what a good counter is, I'm going to hit some counters that aren't coming off very hard, but we're going to play the point out, and I'm going to try to hit my counter to your feet, and then from there we're going to see how often you pop this ball up for me to hit the next one down and as a put away. So notice that counter didn't come off crazy hard. I just took it so early and it was so low that it's very tough for my opponent to get to that ball and hit an aggressive ball back. As soon as I get the ball low, that puts them in a defensive position. And as soon as I hit this ball downwards, then the next ball is obviously going to be coming upwards. And that's exactly what we want, because I can either let that ball go, or if it's high enough, then that's when I'm going to put the ball away. Now, counters can be viewed as a one-shot takes-all scenario, but for the most part, counters are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So your reload does matter. With one-handed backhand counters, you don't have to worry about it as much. My reload is very, very quick. So if we're having a hands battle, so right there, you can see how quick the reload is with the one-handed backhand counter compared to the alternate, which is going to be the two-handed backhand counter. The reload on this one-hander is going to be a lot less and a lot quicker because all I'm doing is snapping through it. Another amateur mistake that I see with the one-handed backhand counter is not breaking their wrist enough. Now, you'll see if you slow-mo my shot, and the mechanics of it, I not only push with my shoulder and arm, but I also break my wrist backwards and snap through it with this wrist. So not only does this provide a little bit more topspin, but also a lot more power. And because you're breaking your wrist backwards, notice how my paddle face changes from being a little more angled up to now angled down. So when you're hitting backhand counters, remember, it's not all shoulder and arm. You also need to break your wrist as well. You'll see the best players do this. Hayden, J-Dub, Ben, they all not only hit counters with their arm, but they also break their wrist back to snap through it. So just to show you guys the difference of what it looks like, Ethan's gonna feed 2 balls, and I'm gonna show you guys what it looks like if I don't break my wrist backwards compared to when I do break my wrist backwards. The thing I want you guys to focus on is the difference in spin, trajectory, and power. One other mistake that I see on the amateur level with backhand counters is jumping when they make contact with the ball. Now, every single counter that you make should be a slide. You should really use your tippy toes in order to get you upwards a little bit more, so then it's easier to hit that ball down. You'll see one of the best counters in the game. You'll see Colin do it very well. He never jumps. He always slides and is on his tippy toes. Gabe does the same exact thing. Never does Gabe jump backwards because that gets him out of position, takes too much time to get back into position. And that, even though it's like a split second, even in the 4-0, 4-5 level, it does take away a lot of your positioning and the advantage that you have. So for specifically right side players, and they're trying to slide to cover that line speed up, make sure that you're sliding and you're on your tippy toes. Also, the ball of your feet is easier to push off of rather than the heels, or rather than being in the air. And make sure that you can slide and keep yourself balanced by being on the balls of your feet. So let's do some examples. So. So right there's a great example of me jumping and being out of position as soon as I land. The next ball's already coming back. This entire court's already opened. Yes, that example was exaggerated, but amateurs do this all the time, especially on the right side, where they jump and their foot's already on the sideline, their partner doesn't cover, or their partner does cover and then it leaves cross court open. Jumping, if you jump a split second too early, you expose the line or you expose some of your weak points even more. For example, the further this counter is away from my body, the harder it is to hit a good, powerful counter back, because I want it to be in front of my body so I can leverage my shoulder and my arm to push forward and through it. When the ball's right here, I cannot do that. I cannot get behind the ball with my shoulder or my arm. I kind of have to scoop it or flick my wrist. The more I flick my wrist in this position, the more variables are involved and the more consistent I'm going to be. So just to show you guys, go ahead, beat up line. And you'll see right there, it's very tough for me to control this flick, especially when I'm jumping away from it. Yeah. So you'll see how flimsy this is compared to if you hit it in front of my body. It comes off a lot more solid because I have all of these under a lot more control. So your weak points when you're hitting a one-handed backhand counter is as far away as your body as possible. The further it is to your body, the more leverage, power, and control you have. So if you are playing someone who has a one-handed backhand counter, you try to put it as far away from them as possible so they have the least leverage possible. Also, another thing to note is with this one-handed counter, you're more frequently going to see it on the men's side of things, and two-handed counters you're going to see more on the women's side. So let's actually talk about two-handed backhand counters now. So one of the advantages that the two-handed backhand counter allows is for a lot more time before the ball makes contact with your paddle because of the difference in contact point. When I'm hitting the ball to the side of me in this what I consider pocket right here, compared to when it's in front of me, notice there's about 2 feet more that I have to react to the ball. So that means I can more easily hit more consistent counters because I have just more time to react. When I'm hitting counters right in front of me, I'm trying to take it early and hit it as down as possible. With this two-handed backhand counter, you're gonna see a lot more players stand a step or two off of the kitchen line, and they're able to cover a lot more. They have a much bigger spot that they can cover because they have more time to react. Now, even though two-handed backhand counters are most commonly seen on the women's side of things, this is something that a lot of men have taken and started to use on covering their line or covering middle a lot more frequently. So this is a really, really successful page that men have taken from the girl side, and it turns out to be quite helpful. For example, Ben used to be very, very weak covering line with this one-handed backhand. So now what he does is his ready position is two hands. If it comes to his body, he's just gonna let his second hand go, still hit a one-handed backhand counter, but now if it comes to his line, he's able to cover with that two hand. So because you have this second hand behind the paddle, you are able to get more torque and more power when it's to the side of your body. So with this one hand, you can't really do much with it. You don't have much control because there's no hand behind it. But when you put a hand behind this paddle, now it's almost like righty forehand or lefty forehand if you're a righty, and you're able to turn it and get a lot more torque. So the mechanics of a two-handed backhand counter are a lot more using your entire body compared to just your shoulder, arm, and wrist. So some things that I want you guys to note with mechanics is the terms coil and uncoil. Think of yourself as a spring. And so you want to use your legs, your core, and your entire upper body to turn and get behind the ball, which is then when you coil like this. This is your ready position, your spring that's about to let loose. And then as soon as you make contact with the ball, you uncoil. And you push through with your legs, you turn with your abs, and you swing with your shoulders and flick your wrist a little bit. So there's a lot more variables involved, but it will give you a lot more control because of this hand behind the paddle. So the strongest point with a two-handed backhand counter is when it's to the side of you in what I call this pocket. This is when you're at the strongest point. Think of it as a baseball player. When it's right in your strike zone, that's when you're at your strongest, and that's when you could hit your farthest. Compared if it's a little bit further away or you get jammed a little bit, you want that sweet spot right here. So same thing, you can slide to change that sweet spot, and I recommend that you do as long as you're not jumping. And I do see a lot of tennis players do this, you know, when they sometimes they jump when they hit this counter, and I don't recommend it. Once again, too much time, it takes too much time. So the next ball that comes back, they're already out of position. And since I'm hitting this ball in this spot right here, I'm pulling across my body rather than pushing through it like I am with a one-handed backhand counter. So naturally, most of these balls are going to go across. So instead of me hitting this one-handed backhand counter in front of me to the person in front of me, I'm gonna be pulling it across my body towards the middle or cross court. And now obviously the weakest point is going to be at your body. This is where you see a lot of girls and guys get jammed when they're holding two-y and then a ball comes at their body and they can't take this second hand off in time, so they just get jammed right here. This is a very weak spot. Now you can change the spot or try to avoid this spot by sliding. So now this exact weak point, if you feed me a ball, instead of it looking like this, instead of it looking like that, it looks more like this. And so sliding is very helpful no matter what one or two-handed counter you're in. Another common amateur mistake that I see with two-handed backhand counters is too big of a backswing. And so not only do they start with their paddle behind them, they swing through it way too much as well. Compared to if you look at my counters, when I hit this, that's a great example of me getting jammed. As you can see, I'm loaded on my backhand side to the side of me, which means I'm weak at my body. I didn't anticipate that ball. I turn here and I obviously get it into the thumb. So you'll see with most of these counters, my starting position is to the side of my body. This coil helps generate power as well as the hand behind my paddle. So there's no need to bring it further back like an actual baseball swing. You're not trying to generate that much power when you have your legs, your core, and this hand behind your paddle. So my starting position is going to be to the side of my body rather than behind. A lot of amateurs, they start behind, their swing's gonna be a little bit too big, and then they're either gonna be late to the ball or early or swing with too much power, it's gonna go out. Same thing applies to your backswing. If I swing and rather than ending here, I swing like an actual baseball swing where it's all the way over my shoulder like this, I'm not gonna be ready for the next ball. My reload time is gonna be way too long and the opponent's already gonna have made contact with the next ball while my ready position is up here rather than swinging here and my ready position is already down here. Let's do some examples of what not to do, which is me swinging a little bit too much. Quick interruption, this video is brought to you by Pro XR Pickleball. I've been using these paddles for over 2 years now, and I got them to match with my shoes as well. I love these things. Personally, I use the Prototype 12.7 millimeter. It has a phenomenal core, especially when the game's getting hotter. So make sure to use my link down below and buy one for yourself. Ah! So we talked about the one-handed backhand counter, we talked about the two-handed backhand counter. Now there's a third counter. Can you guys guess what it is? It is the forehand pancake grip counter, also known as the Scorpion in these higher level games. It's used, honestly, every once in a while. We rarely see players who have that grip that do it consistently every time. A few of the standouts are Riley Newman. Riley Newman stays in pancake grip, so everything that's above his belly button, he takes with the forehand, even if it's on his left shoulder. And then Colin Johns, when he sees a specific pattern, then he sits down and sits in the Scorpion with the pancake grip. So let's walk through some of the advantages. So with this forehand counter, every single counter is going to be covered with your forehand side of your paddle. Even if it's to the left side of your body, say for example, backhand, forehand with a one-handed counter, when you're in Scorpion and you're low to the ground, if it's to the right of your shoulder, it's still gonna be a forehand. If it's to the left of your shoulder, it's still gonna be a forehand, just inverted. So you're using the same paddle face side on any single one of your counters. Now the biggest advantage of this is that you have no lag to open that you do when you have a backhand to forehand. When I get sped up cross body and I'm backhand and then I have to open and then push through it, that's what I consider lag. Now when you're in Scorpion like this and they hit it cross body, there's zero lag. I'm just trying to snap onto the ball. You're just trying to track the ball and just snap through it every single time. So that right there is an example of the lag that you see when I'm sitting backhand and then have to open to forehand. I was late to it, I shanked it, and it overall wasn't a good ball. Compared to when I'm in Scorpion, let's see the difference. So you'll see on a lot of these balls, not only am I taking it earlier than if I open with my forehand, but there's no lag. I'm just simply trying to track the ball and hit it and snap through it. So it's a completely different mechanic. You rarely see it, but it does work if you've mastered it. So you'll see a lot of these players who don't come from tennis, some of them try to go with a pancake grip through baseline to kitchen to ground strokes to anything. And this is the grip that they choose. And this is what they do at the kitchen. It's very tough to find a spot on them for the first game or two, and then you finally figure out their weak points. So this is what the pancake grip looks like. You are in full Western. Notice how when I'm in, this is handshake, continental, full Western, my paddle is now pancake grip. Now, some of the major weak points with this Scorpion or pancake grip is since you're hitting down on it, you can sometimes mistime it and accidentally be late to it, opening your paddle face and adding slice. And so that'll cause some of your balls to go long, and that obviously decreases a lot of your margins. So even though you can take it earlier, if an off-pace ball is hit to you where you anticipate it early and you're snapping through it a little too early, it could go in the net, or if they hit it a little bit too hard and you're late to it, then it's gonna slice long. Also, I cover my shoulder very well. This is the strong point of this grip, but this inverted position, if I'm late to it, it's the same exact problem as my one-handed backhand counter where I can't really do much with this ball. I have no leverage, I have no power, I have no control. So I have to take this ball out here if I read a line speed up. But if I get stuck here, then it's almost impossible to get it back successfully. So what you'll see some of these players do, Riley Newman, or one of the new players coming up, his name's Aiden Shank, they will actually sit two-y. So if they do get sped up line, they can still just hit a two-handed backhand counter. But anything that is through their left shoulder to the right of it, then they're still gonna cover in this pancake grip. So you can see not only does that hurt to do, but it's almost impossible to get it back good to their feet with power and control. So that is why a lot of these players come around it, hit that two-handed backhand counter. So you'll see the spots are way different in this. Now, instead of cross body, that's a very good strong point of this grip. So you're gonna wanna go away from their body or off pace it so then they mistime their slice punch. So now breaking down the mechanics of this shot, You're gonna want to pretend that you're sitting in a chair. A good example is Colin Johns or Riley Newman. They sit and get low and squat, and their head is basically tracking the ball. And so as soon as they see the ball coming to a certain spot, then they're just gonna slap it with their forehand. So the big thing, if you have a Pancake Grip Scorpion, is that you're gonna want to get as low as possible. You're gonna want to get low, pretend that you're squatting in a chair, and maybe side to side in order to cover more line. But for the most part, getting low is the priority. So that concludes this video of the 3 different counters and the mechanics and strategy behind every single one of them. I hope you guys took some nuance out of it. Big thanks to Ethan for coming out here and helping out. Make sure to follow his Clash Royale account. Road to 10,000 trophies. Big thanks to ProXR Pickleball for sponsoring this video, and I'll see y'all next week. Ow! Go ahead. Ah! Ah!